Chapter 1. In the 7th year of my mission to win over Victoria Holloway. Her childhood sweetheart was diagnosed with terminal cancer. When I proposed, Victoria abandoned me without a second thought, running to his side and telling me she despised a doormat like me. But the only reason I was pursuing her was to bring my true love back to life. Later, Victoria was filled with regret and begged me to take her back. I just smiled faintly. But I never loved you. 1. Host. The mission progress has finally reached 99. Just one to go. You can do it just after Victoria got her promotion. I received the notification from the system. Finally, only one left, and my mission would be a success. For 7 years I had humbled myself to the extreme. For Victoria's birthday, I once waited outside her apartment building until dawn just to give her a gift. She wasn't a good cook, so I learned, one recipe at a time, never complaining even when I burned my fingers. But Victoria barely ever gave me the time of day. Sincere, I don't like you. Can you just stop bothering me? Do you really think you're being romantic? Those were her exact words. I suppose Victoria really didn't like me. The one she loved was her childhood sweetheart, Ethan. But 2 years ago, everything changed. Ethan not only rejected Victoria's confession of love, but also left the country without looking back. The night he rejected her, Victoria came to me in tears. She'd had a few drinks, her cheeks were flushed, and she looked a complete mess. That night, she was the one who confessed to me, "Sincere, let's be together. I've thought it through. I want to be with you." The next second, she threw herself into my arms. As I took in the fresh scent of her hair, I gave a bitter smile to myself. How could I not know why she was suddenly willing to be with me? It was just to spite Ethan. I was nothing more than an insignificant substitute in her life. But after a few seconds, I hugged her back. Okay, I couldn't refuse her, because I had my own ulterior motive for pursuing her all this time. I wanted to revive my true love, Clara Bell. That night, Victoria and I held each other tightly. Before she passed out from the alcohol, she suddenly cried out Ethan's name. She begged him not to go. I forced a wry smile, carried her to the bedroom, and tucked her in. But whether Victoria's feelings were real or fake, I had only one goal: to bring Clara back. So in a way, Victoria and I were just two people sharing a bed with different dreams. As I watched the mission progress bar climb, my only obsession was Clara. As long as my proposal to Victoria was successful, I could revive Clara. After buying the diamond ring, I got down on one knee and asked Victoria to marry me. To be honest, my heart was pounding with anxiety as I proposed, but I could see the hesitation in her eyes. After all these years together, she had seen my endless patience and tolerance. She might not love me, but she couldn't possibly reject my devotion. This was my final hand to play. I laughed at myself. Sincere, I thought she was about to say yes. Just then her phone rang. The moment she answered it, my heart sank. A few moments later she hung up, a look of urgency on her face as she prepared to leave. A lump formed in my throat. I grabbed her hand, my voice pleading, "Victoria, don't go." For a moment she seemed to waver, but in the end her resolve hardened, and she yanked her hand away. "Sincere, don't make a scene. Ethan has terminal cancer. He's in the city. I have to go to him." I froze. Ethan Ashwood was the childhood sweetheart who had gone abroad. 2. After that, Victoria didn't come home all night. I sat on the sofa, lit a cigarette but didn't smoke it, just watched it burn quietly. In a daze, my mind drifted to her birthday celebration. In our 6th year together, I had baked her a cake myself. That day, Victoria didn't mock me. Instead, she tilted her head and watched me bustle around the kitchen. It was a sweltering summer day, and my shirt was soaked with sweat. She didn't turn on the air conditioning, but she picked up a fan and fanned me. In that moment, we were just like an ordinary, loving married couple. But we never had a moment that warm again. Tonight, I had a premonition. Victoria was going to leave me. Now that Ethan was back, she wouldn't stay by my side. I sighed and called out to the system. If the mission fails, does that mean Clara can't come back? The system was silent for a long time before finally giving its answer. Yes. I clapped my hands together and stubbed out the cigarette in the ashtray. Only one left. Even though Ethan had reappeared, as long as Victoria agreed to my proposal, the mission progress would hit 100. Clara could come back. After 7 years of effort, I couldn't give up on all of it now. Even if it meant sacrificing all my dignity, I had to have Clara back. As the sky began to lighten, I flexed my numb wrist and dialed Victoria's number. I had to know where she was. When she answered, her voice was sharp with impatience. "Can you keep it down? Ethan's sleeping. Sincere, I'm still at the hospital. Stop calling me." 3. Her voice was so cold it chilled me to the bone. Even before we were dating, she had never sounded so annoyed with me. In that instant, I knew I had lost. But since it wasn't the absolute end, I still wanted to try. To try and see if Victoria would accept my proposal. Even if there was only a sliver of hope, I had to grasp it. Otherwise, Clara would never come back. I left the house and immediately hailed a cab to the hospital. When I arrived, I frantically found a nurse and asked for Ethan Ashwood's room. Nurses don't usually give out patient information, but I must have looked so terrible that she was startled, thinking it was an emergency. She looked up his room number for me. As I rushed to the door of his room, I saw a scene that made me stand blankly. Ethan, pale and lying in the hospital bed, was holding Victoria's hand tightly. "Victoria, do you have a boyfriend now?" Hearing this, I didn't enter but stood frozen outside the door. Truthfully, I also wanted to know how she would answer. After a few seconds of silence, a brilliant smile spread across Victoria's face. "Ethan, I don't have a boyfriend. All these years, I've been waiting for you to come back." It was a deeply moving scene. The soft sunlight from the window bathed Victoria, and the two of them, hands intertwined, like a perfect couple, looked at each other and smiled with a silent understanding. And I stood outside the room, a pathetic clown watching the heartwarming scene before me. I wanted to rush in, to tell Ethan that I was Victoria's boyfriend, that we were about to be engaged. If Ethan hadn't come back last night, would everything be different? Victoria might have accepted my proposal. I would have finally succeeded, and Clara would be alive again. Unfortunately, there are no what-ifs in life. The reality was, Victoria's childhood sweetheart was back, and she had told him she'd been single all these years. The 7 years of my devotion had become a complete and utter joke. Perhaps sensing my predicament, the system asked if I wanted to abort the mission. I didn't need the system to tell me that if I did, Clara wouldn't come back. With a sigh, I told the system not to do anything rash. Chapter 2. In the end, I didn't enter their room. I turned around and went up to the 7th floor. The rooms on the 7th floor were all for patients in a vegetative state. Walking a familiar path to a particular door, I took a deep breath and pushed it open. Inside lay Clara Bell. She had been in a vegetative state for 7 years. I still remember the day it happened. It was my birthday. "Sincere, I'm going to the market early. I'm going to make you a huge feast, Clara." Her hair in a bun. Gestured with her hands how much food she was going to make. Her face lit up with a smile as bright as a flower. In that instant, a wave of panic washed over me. I had a terrible feeling that she was going to leave me, and I was right. On my birthday, I lost Clara forever. For 7 years, I haven't celebrated a single birthday. Sitting down beside her bed, I gently stroked her hair. Clara's expression was serene and peaceful, as if she were in a deep sleep. In the profound quiet, I asked the system what the probability of a successful proposal to Victoria was now. No matter what, even if I had to pay an enormous price, I had to have Clara wake up, whole and unharmed. 4. However, the system regretfully informed me that it could only measure mission progress, not the probability of a successful proposal. The progress was still at 99%. On my way downstairs, I ran into Victoria. She was carrying a thermos, apparently on her way to get some water for Ethan. When she saw me, Victoria frowned. Sincere? What are you doing here? Don't disturb Ethan. He definitely doesn't want to see you. I was silent for a moment, not bothering to explain that I was here to see someone else, because even if I told her, she wouldn't believe me. To be precise, no one would believe that I had a true love buried deep in my heart. I had been too good to Victoria, so good that everyone believed I was truly in love with her. I had almost managed to deceive myself. As we stood in awkward silence, a flicker of panic crossed Victoria. Sighs, probably remembering what she had said to Ethan in his room. Suddenly, I broke the almost absurd silence. Victoria, come home for dinner tonight. With Ethan back, all I could do was try to mitigate the damage he'd done to the mission and get Victoria to return to my side. Victoria didn't refuse, but her expression clearly soured. I gritted my teeth and played my trump card. Victoria, your parents want to see you too. After we started dating, I noticed she rarely went home. Usually, it was me who visited her parents, trying to earn some goodwill and boost the mission progress. As a result, Mr. and Mrs. Holloway were quite fond of their son-in-law. As soon as I said that, Victoria's hesitation vanished. But she only conceded a little. Fine. But after dinner I have to come back. Ethan needs me. Even from so far away, she had to come back to the hospital to take care of him. Why not hire a private nurse? You're not that strong. I'll cover the cost. There was a barely perceptible tremor in my voice. I fantasized that she might accept my offer. But a fantasy is just a fantasy. Victoria cruelly and heartlessly shattered my last shred of hope. No, those nurses aren't careful. They won't take good care of Ethan. A soft, affectionate smile graced Victoria's lips. I stood there, motionless. She rarely smiled at me like that, nor was she ever willing to take care of me. Once, I had a high fever that lasted for days. Victoria was on vacation at the time. Knowing full well I was sick, she went on a 5-day trip with her friends. To my face, she was dismissive, telling me it was just a minor illness. Sincere, don't be so fragile. You're a grown man. Do you still need me to take care of you? That's what she said to me. As the fever raged to the point of delirium, I thought of Clara. Whenever I was sick, she would sit by my bed, her face etched with worry, asking if she should take me to the hospital. She would often watch over me for the entire night. Sometimes I'd wake up to find her with dark circles under her eyes, nodding off from exhaustion. But it had been 7 years since I'd felt Clara's care. Watching Victoria walk away, I clenched my fists. I could feel that since Ethan's return, she had thrown her entire being into caring for him. Having already lost everything, I had nothing left to lose. But I couldn't accept mission failure. I silently prayed for Victoria's pity. Just pity me this one time. Just let the mission succeed. That afternoon, I went to Mr. and Mrs. Holloway's house and helped them shop and cook, preparing a huge dinner. They knew about Ethan's return. They looked at me for a long time as if they wanted to say something, but in the end, they only sighed. While I was cooking, Victoria's mother finally came into the kitchen and hesitantly told me that they just wanted their daughter to be happy. Wanting their daughter to be happy meant they wanted Victoria to discard our 7 years together and run into Ethan's arms. But they knew saying that to me directly would be too cruel, so they put it more gently. After a long pause, I nodded slowly. Okay, I understand. I understood. I was the one who was supposed to be out of the picture, but I still wanted to talk to Victoria. After dinner, I had to have a serious talk with her. Who knew I wouldn't even make it to after dinner? Because Victoria had no intention of eating this meal at all. At 8 o'clock that evening, Mr. and Mrs. Holloway and I sat staring at a table of cold food. It was me who finally called her. When the call connected, I heard Victoria's sobs. This was the second time in all these years she had shown me her vulnerable side. The first time was because Ethan had left the country, and despite him, she had come to me in tears to confess her feelings. This time, the reason for her tears was again Ethan. Sincere, can you stop calling me? Ethan's been rushed into surgery. Sincere. I wish you were the one being wheeled into surgery right now. Can you just stop bothering me? 5. Something had happened to Ethan. He had a sudden massive stomach hemorrhage and was in the operating room, his life hanging in the balance. By the time I reached the hospital, Ethan was just being wheeled out. The doctors said he might only have a month left to live. Victoria was crying uncontrollably, on the verge of a complete breakdown. I wanted to say something, but she shoved me away viciously, telling me to get out of the hospital and not to bother her and Ethan. I realized with a sad certainty Victoria and I were drifting further and further apart. After being kicked out of the hospital, I sat outside all night. I lit another cigarette and watched it burn to the end. My body was exhausted, but my mind felt no desire to rest. I only felt panic. The system seemed to sense my emotional turmoil and silently kept me company. I asked it, if the mission failed, would Clara really never wake up? This time the system didn't speak, but I already knew the answer. As the first ray of dawn appeared, I stood up and felt my pocket. The small box containing the ring dug painfully into my fingertips. The system asked me if I was sure I was going to propose to Victoria. I nodded. I had to take the gamble, because my time for the mission was running out. When I found Victoria, she was in the small garden behind the hospital, walking with Ethan. Ethan was so thin he was almost a skeleton, his eyes sunken, yet he still managed a gentle smile. He told Victoria he hadn't left intentionally all those years ago. He had been diagnosed with cancer back then and chose to go abroad for treatment. The reason he had rejected her confession was that he was afraid of ruining her future. But this time, Ethan didn't want to let go of her hand. Since he was dying anyway, he decided to say the words he had held back for so long. "Victoria, will you spend the rest of..." Before Ethan could finish, I rushed forward. This time I cast aside all my pride and reminded her in a hoarse voice that she was my girlfriend. A brief look of confusion crossed Victoria's face. It seemed she hadn't expected me to show up. At that moment I dropped to one knee, pulled out the diamond ring, and with a trembling voice said, "Victoria, marry me." Just 3 words, yet they were incredibly difficult for me to say. I could see the hesitation in her eyes. No matter what, I had been with her for many years. That was a fact. And my official title was her boyfriend. I saw her waver. Sincere. Her voice was also tense. But Ethan quickly interrupted her. He shot me a cool glance, then turned back to Victoria and asked her who I was. With that one question, Victoria's wavering gaze became firm again. Next, she took Ethan's hand and gave me a cold look. Seeing her disdainful expression, I knew my mission had most likely failed. "Sincere, you know what? I hate doormats the most," she said, enunciating each word. "So, can you just stop bothering me? Can you just stop bothering me?" All these years of devotion couldn't compare to Ethan's return. As her words fell, the system's icy voice rang out. Mission progress decreasing 75%, 50%, 25. I closed my eyes, waiting for the final hammer to fall. Finally, the system slowly announced the number. 0. System notification, mission failed. The next second, my face went pale. I struggled to maintain my kneeling position as a sharp pain lanced through my chest, so intense I nearly cried out. The mission, it had failed. Clara wasn't coming back. She was never coming back. I was dizzy as I tried to process this reality. Then, unexpectedly, the system's voice sounded again. After evaluation, due to the host's outstanding performance in the mission, Clarabelle's life can be restored after the penalty phase. However, there will be a corresponding price to pay. Chapter 3. That was the last thing the system said before it detached from my body. My eyes flew open. Clara was coming back? Ignoring the searing pain in my body, I scrambled up and ran like a madman to the 7th floor of the inpatient building. When I stood before Clara's room, I found I didn't dare to go in. I was terrified that I would open the door and find her still in a vegetative state. I couldn't handle that. I really couldn't. After steeling myself, I finally pushed the door open. In that instant, I held my breath. Clara was really awake. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, looking like she was about to stand up. Clara, I rushed to her side. She saw me almost immediately. We fell into each other's arms, sobbing. 7 years of waiting and agony melted away in that single moment. When I finally let her go, seeing her red-rimmed eyes, my heart felt like it was being torn apart. And what she said next plunged me into an icy abyss. She looked at me, her eyes wet, and told me she only had 2 months to live sincere. I really don't want to die, but the system only gave me this much time to be with you. The system said I should have died a long time ago. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. I immediately remembered the system's parting words. After evaluation, due to the host's outstanding performance in the mission, Clara Bell's life can be restored after the penalty phase. However, there will be a corresponding price to pay. Getting Clara back was my reward, but the price was she only had 2 months to live. Because no matter how you looked at it, my mission had failed. L6. During that time, I quit my job to focus on spending every moment with Clara. Sometimes, in my nightmares, I would relive the day she slipped into a coma. That evening, I had booked 2 movie tickets, planning to propose to her after the show, but a fire broke out in the theater. Clara pushed me to safety, but she was struck by a falling piece of burning equipment and ended up in a vegetative state. I could never understand where a girl as small and slender as Clara found the strength to save me. I asked her if she had any regrets. Regretted saving me, regretted spending 7 years in a coma, regretted that I wasn't good enough, that I failed the mission and only managed to earn her 2 months of life. But Clara told me she didn't regret it. Even if she had 1,000 or 10,000 chances to do it over, she would save me every single time. After I told her about my mission, she just held me in a silent embrace. Don't be sad anymore, Sincere. I'm back now. I wiped the tears from my eyes and forced a smile. Yes, she was back. Even if it was only for 2 short months, my Clara was finally back. We spent the following days like any ordinary couple, redoing all the things we used to love. Whether it was going for a swim or making DIY crafts on the street, it felt like we were back in our college days. We walked hand in hand down the street, taking countless photo booth pictures and selfies. But as we did all this, an endless sadness washed over me. Clara was going to leave. She seemed to know it too, frantically pulling me into photos, trying to freeze our beautiful moments in time. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. One morning, Clara suddenly told me she wanted to take some wedding photos. I knew it had always been her dream to dress up beautifully and become my bride. I swallowed my tears and said yes. That very day, I took her to a bridal shop and helped her pick out the most beautiful dress in the store. After buying the dress, we took countless photos right there in the shop. But Clara kept saying, just a few more, just a few more. So we kept shooting for a long, long time. On the very last photo, my hand slipped, and I accidentally turned on an aging filter. In the picture, we instantly became white-haired and wrinkled. My heart sank, worried I had upset her, and I moved to turn it off. But she pressed her hand over mine, her voice choked with emotion. Sincere, let me see you looking old for a little longer. I'll never get to see it for real. Don't turn it off, just let me look. My eyes turned red too. I wanted to turn off the filter, to wipe her tears, to tell her not to cry. But the truth was, I was about to break down myself. In the end, I couldn't bring myself to delete the photo. Instead, we took who knows how many more pictures with that filter on. Clara told me that even if I became an old man, she would always love me. I thought about how cruel fate could be. The 1-month countdown had begun, and soon Clara would be gone, and I would be left all alone in this world. After the photo shoot, we were about to head home, but just then someone burst into the bridal shop. Sincere, I knew I'd find you here. A woman's tearful voice crashed into my ears. I looked up, stunned, and saw that somehow Victoria had found her way into the shop. Chapter 4. 7. She grabbed my hand, her eyes red and swollen, looking like she was about to collapse into my arms. Sincere, Ethan. He's dead. I looked coldly at the sobbing, broken Victoria and slowly pushed her away. I had never treated her with such coldness before. Victoria froze, lifting her head. Her eyes quickly landed on the bewildered Clara standing beside me. Victoria's brow furrowed. Sincere, I know you're still obsessed with me, but why find a substitute? A fake is still a fake. Stop throwing a tantrum. Ethan's gone, so I'll come back to you now, okay? Listening to her words, I almost laughed out of sheer anger. After Ethan's death, she came running to me. Did she expect me to just pick up where we left off? Meeting her gaze, I stepped in front of Clara, shielding her from Victoria's sight. Victoria, listen carefully. I pursued you for 7 years for one reason only, to save the woman I love. Now that she's back, I have no reason to ever see you again. I thought she would understand what I was saying, but in those 7 years I had been too good to her. So good that she couldn't believe I didn't truly love her. Sometime during our confrontation, a heavy rain began to fall outside. Victoria's expression turned desolate in an instant. She took a step forward, trying to grab my wrist, but I pulled away without hesitation. Finally, I took Clara's hand and led her out of the shop without a backward glance. It seemed Victoria still couldn't accept my words. She screamed for me to come back. Sincere, I'm willing to love you now. I said I'm willing to love you. I ignored her and thought to myself, Victoria, I will never love you. I will hate you. I had thought she would give up, but I didn't realize this was just the beginning of her harassment of me and Clara. 8. After we got home, Clara seemed to have a lot on her mind. I knew she must have many questions for me. Clara, if you want to ask something, just say it. I took her hand after a moment of silence. She still didn't ask anything. She just said that Victoria seemed to really like me. But I knew Victoria didn't like me at all. She was just afraid of being alone. After Ethan died, she realized she had to go on with her life and came looking for me. Perhaps Victoria didn't love anyone. She only loved herself. That's why when Ethan came back for her, she went to him. And after losing Ethan, she came back to me. When it came to selfishness, no one could beat Victoria. How could I ever fall in love with her? My heart, from beginning to end, had only ever belonged to Clara. Clara still looked like she had a million questions, but she didn't voice them. Instead, she just said, okay. One evening, Victoria showed up again. That day, she acted like a madwoman, demanding to know why Clara had stolen me from her. 9. A torrential downpour raged that night. Clara and I were at home preparing dinner. She only had 15 days left. Clara's remaining time was like a countdown clock hanging over my head. Every single day, I knew exactly how many days she had left. Just as we finished cooking, there was a sudden knock on the door. Assuming it was a delivery driver, I opened it, but standing there was a drenched Victoria. She always hated the rain, but this time she was soaked to the bone, her hair plastered to her face. Victoria had lost all composure. She cried and asked me if I would go with her. Sincere, I truly have nothing left. I don't have Ethan. Can you please not let me lose you too? I had never seen Victoria so utterly defeated. She had always been proud, vibrant, and full of life. But now her makeup was a mess of streaks. Her sobs sounded incredibly tragic, but I felt not a flicker of sympathy. I thought, Victoria, you brought this on yourself. Just then, Clara squeezed my hand. I could feel her hand was ice cold, as if she was worried about something. I gave Clara a reassuring look, then turned to face Victoria and coldly said the words I had wanted to say for so long. Victoria, I will never love you. Never, ever. Victoria staggered back, the light in her eyes instantly dimming. Then I slammed the door shut. As I held Clara in my arms, I could feel her trembling. She was afraid that I would leave her. After holding each other for a long time, I spoke softly. Clara, let's move somewhere else. In her final days, I didn't want any more disturbances from Victoria. I just wanted to quietly walk with Clara to the end of her road. 10. We spent the last dozen or so days by the sea. I rented a short-term apartment, and every day I took Clara for a walk on the beach. I heard that Victoria was searching for me like a madwoman, only to find out that I had moved. Apparently, she bought train tickets to other cities, searching blindly, like a headless chicken, but she never found out where I had gone. I thought, good thing she never found me. On the 5th to last day, Clara asked me if I would find someone else after she was gone. I told her she was being silly. That was a possibility that would never exist in this lifetime. Chapter 5. Clara pouted. If I make you stay single forever, won't I be a villain for the ages? She tried to keep her tone light, as if she were joking, but by the end, she was crying. She cried heartbrokenly, as if she had been suppressing it for a long time. Clara said she was sorry that she only had so little time left. I held her and comforted her for a long time, until we were both crying in each other's arms. Clara, in this lifetime, the one person you could never be sorry to is me. I don't know if she understood what I meant, but all I wanted to say was I love her. On the final day, Clara passed away. Before she left, she held my hand, her gaze gentle, as if she had 1,000 things to say but no strength left to speak. My wonderful Clara was gone. That day, I cried until I couldn't anymore. Clara had said that after she died, she just wanted to go home. Our home was in our original city, so the day after she passed, I took her ashes and returned. But I never expected Victoria to find me again. She seemed somewhat excited by Clara's death, but was trying to hide it, afraid it would anger me. I pushed past her, wanting her to get out of my way. Victoria didn't move. Her face held a sort of secret anticipation. Ethan's gone, and Clara's gone too. So now, can you be with me? Meeting her expectant gaze, I shook my head. Victoria, I told you a long time ago I will never love you. Clara was not your substitute, and I will not be Ethan's. I saw Victoria's expression turn from blank to despairing in an instant, but I paid her no mind and tried to walk past her. This time, Victoria grabbed my wrist, sobbing uncontrollably. I could feel that in this moment, she truly regretted everything. She regretted using my feelings, treating me as a stand-in, and she regretted not accepting my proposal back then, but I just firmly pulled my hand away. Victoria stumbled and fell to the ground, her cries filled with utter despair. Sincere, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at her coldly and told her a cruel truth. And Victoria, it's also true that I will never be with you, ever. Then, I walked away without looking back. My mind couldn't help but drift to the day my proposal to her failed. It was as if our roles had been reversed, with me being the one to reject her. But I was only speaking the truth. I truly would never, ever love Victoria. 11. After taking care of Clara's final affairs, I heard that Victoria had died in a car accident. She had gotten drunk and kept mumbling words of regret. She said she shouldn't have treated me as a substitute, shouldn't have rejected my proposal, that she should have built a good life with me. Then, while drunk, she stumbled into the middle of the road and was killed. When I heard the news, I felt nothing in her last 3 days. Clara kept telling me that I could find someone else. But I had told her, I have always loved you, Clara. How could I ever look for another? The very first time I met her, this is how she introduced herself. My name is Clara Bell, as in a clear sunny day she was gone, and my sunny day had vanished completely. 15 days later, the news reported, a man dies after taking an overdose of sleeping pills at his girlfriend's grave. As my vision blurred, I looked up at the blue sky and white clouds and thought, this is good. Clara, I'm coming to find you. Epilogue. Clara always had a secret. The system was never so kind as to revive her after a failed mission. The truth was, while she was in a vegetative state, Clara had also been bound to a system. Her mission was to travel through different stories. If she earned enough points, she could come back to see Sincere one more time. Clara saved for a long, long time, finally earning enough points for 2 months with him. Afraid that knowing the truth of her mission would hurt Sincere too much, she simply asked the system to tell him it was his reward. Clara thought, as long as Sincere isn't too sad, it's okay. And one more thing, the last words Clara wanted to say were simple. She wanted Sincere not to mourn her forever. She wanted him to live a life of peace and joy. But she no longer had the strength. She thought, I'm sorry, Sincere. This time, she was really leaving. Goodbye, Sincere. Before she died, Clara had only one wish. This life was too hard. In the next life, she hoped she would meet Sincere sooner.